Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Star Report. This is Jason. I'm here at New Dimensions Crystals in Reiki in downtown Brenham, Texas. I guess I usually say New Dimensions. But I like to watch people walk up and down the streets of Brenham, Texas and read the sign on the outside and go, "What's Reiki?" It makes me happy some days. This report is going to be for March the 27th through April the 2nd. We start in the middle of the week just to be different, and that's because when I open the shop, we start our reports with the sun. And so the sun has been super active. I don't know if you're feeling wonky or out of sorts, but the sun's been extremely active over the last several days. Um, Even overnight, it's had several M-class solar flares, which did not produce Earth-facing CMEs. But it was definitely active over Sunday, Monday, when the lunar eclipse was happening. And so lunar eclipses are about new beginnings anyway, and then solar flares and such are kind of uh, infusing extra energy into the things that are happening cosmically. And so there was a super big, I want super big, super fast CME that impacted over that time, and it was the fastest one, meaning that it came out of the sun faster than expected. So it arrived 12 hours earlier. And then that speed, which brought it there, made it the fastest arriving, not the biggest, as in cause of solar storm, but the fastest arriving solar flare we've had in a year. So all of that energy was just jazzing the planet, and it really hadn't settled down a whole lot. There's been active flaring, just nothing Earth directed as of late, which leads us into the week ahead. The major sunspot area that was giving us all the solar flaring. Oh, I'm moving with the smoke. Uh, all of the major solar flares, the sunspots that were doing that are moving out of Earth-facing disks, so they're lowering in risk to the planet. And what we have moving in over the next couple of days is a coronal hole. And we know that solar flares are going to be sort of triggers or high energy sort of things. Sometimes cause heart palpitations, sometimes cause triggers in mental disorders or maladies. And then when we get the coronal holes, that's just like a little sense of heaviness and pressure, right? Sometimes a stiffness in the lungs, like you're breathing in something that's a little bit more compact, and you might feel a little sluggish when that comes across. It uh, Once it starts to be Earth facing, it takes a couple days for the energy to get here, but it's also an immediate magnetic connection between Earth and coronal hole. And then the thing following behind that, which will probably be towards the end of the week into the next week's report, is a plasma filament, and those are just plasma. They call it a filament, meaning that it's sort of like a stray hair on a sweater. It's just sort of hanging off the sun. Sometimes those erupt or come off, and then that's slower when that comes off, but it's more mass of material that comes, and so that will be Earth facing. It's right next to the coronal hole, so it'll be Earth facing once the coronal hole gets just past center disk. And they say center disk meaning center, like, oh look, there's the camera that's pointing at Earth, and it goes this way. So yeah, the sun's doing some crazy things. It's not crazy, it's normal. But the Earth is shifting, and so the normal things that are happening on the sun are more intense in their effect here on the planet, and that is only going to continue to increase. Um, so you should be feeling, well, you don't have to. What you possibly are feeling, what I'm feeling, is that the planet feels entirely different. It's almost like you've been on vacation and you've come home, and it's just sort of like the schedule seems off, the sleep cycle seems a little weird, the even the visual stuff, right? Sometimes sight goes down or up, right? So physical sight might go down or be a little blurry, and then metaphysical sight, uh eyes closed, might be become more clear because there's more amperage in the atmosphere that's sort of happening. And that definitely was since Monday. We are currently in the season of Aries, or the sun sign of Aries. And so that is, I was like, I'm talk about the higher mind. And I scratched my head because it started to itch. Talk about the higher mind is where Aries alchemically is on the body, right? So sometimes when we're in that season, you might feel a little bit more extra pressure here, a little bit of extra tingle. Sometimes that extra tingle can cause a little bit of tinnitus. But basically, the higher mind, the golden fleece, the ram, right? Imagine if you had horns on top of your head, that sort of spiral pressure right here on each hemisphere. Here's the peak of your thing, and then here's the side of your skull. Then, like right here, it would be really where you sort of feel that. A lot of times you can get headaches in that area too. So if you are prone or have chronic migraines, it might be a difficult season for you. And just be aware of that. We are currently not in retrograde of anything, but we're in the pre-shadow of Uranus and Mercury. And so that energy is with us today as we move into the rest of the stars. What are they doing to us? Or how should we interact with them? They're not doing anything to us. We just exist and they aren't out to get us. Maybe they are. I'm going to have a sip. Today, Wednesday, the 27th, Pluto is in an alignment with the moon. And what that energy is going to be really doing, Pluto way out there. We know that Pluto just went through a transition. But basically, Pluto is aligning with the moon to bring focus during this eclipse doorway, right? So we just had the eclipse on Monday, and then we're waiting for the solar eclipse on April the 8th. And so in between that is called the doorway or the gateway. And so it's just bringing extra focus in when it's aligned with the Earth. Pluto is moved into Aquarius. It's going to be there until 2043. So we knew that last year when that sort of happened, and then sort of went back into Capricorn for a couple months, and then now it's back in Aquarius. We knew that that was a shift of generational stuff, right? The last time that Pluto shifted signs, right? It brings about change. The stuff that's really associated with the planet is death, rebirth, and transformation. And the last time that transformation or the Pluto moved signs was 2008, right? So many people who are still paying any attention to the news or whatever sort of realize that societally there's a lot of shifts going on. There's a lot of angst about finances, about inflation, and all that kind of stuff, right? So this sort of shift into Aquarius, right? So Aquarius is much different than Capricorn. Aquarius is really higher minded spiritual shifts and changes, right? So our beliefs and our vision and what we can sort of see that the planet is or could be, right? And so sometimes you sort of see that that's the revelation of scandals that the higher mind is seen through the screen of reality and started to see things for what they are. So you can sort of see a lot of shifts being happening that way. But the main thing physically, if you're looking for a shift in the body, if you do a lot of body work or if you're into meditation, what you're going to be experiencing during the shift and probably on Wednesday is the embodiment, right? That your body feels more spiritual, right? Sometimes you'll experience that as a malaise. Oh, what's going on? What's happening? Sometimes it's going to be this unnoticed or unwarranted vitality, like you didn't get any extra sleep, you didn't change your diet, but all of a sudden your body just sort of feels like it has more energy in it, right? And that's it embodying more spirit, right? So that you are functioning more on spirit, or not necessarily more on spirit, but less so on physical demands. And so that's a cool feeling that you could be experiencing here on Wednesday. Leads us into Thursday, the 28th. Both the planets that we talked about in the beginning about being in pre-shadow retrograde. Uranus is influencing your higher minded I guess what's the word? Your higher minded contemplation during the season in the age of Aquarius, right? So with Pluto being in Aquarius, us being in the age of Aquarius, this Uranus is really causing you to want to act on that higher mindedness rather than contemplate, keep to yourself, function like that later, function like that one day a week. Used to be a pastor, right? And so rather than being super spiritual on Sunday and nothing happening the rest of the week, rather than being super focused on spirituality just when you meditate, this is really an integration that Uranus is granting us of that spirituality in day-to-day life. Sounds like a big Thursday. Friday. Oh yeah, and it is Holy Week for those of you who celebrate the Christian holiday. And so Monday, Thursday is the trial and conviction, and then Friday, the 29th, is Good Friday, which is the crucifixion. And so, ironically enough, it is a 22 Master Day on Friday. 22 Master Day is a good day for taking action. There's a lot of power in the day. Um, let's see what you really want to be focusing on, or what would be a good energy. What the energy is going to allow you to do, so should you so choose, would be to what should be left behind. I put down the word sacrifice. What should be sacrificed for you to continue to move forward? Um, Sometimes sacrifice is a strong word, but what do you need to peel away from yourself so that you can continue to be this spiritual being and not be held back, or not be uh, malnourished by the things that no longer serve you, right? And so that's the Friday energy. So it's a whole lot of cosmic stuff coming together, and the lunar calendar has sort of made Easter fall on a really good energetic day, right? And you can put that to whatever governs as source the movement of time and the interaction of humanity with that, to see how intentional that was. Saturday the 30th. How can you create new patterns not governed by tradition? Is really the energy, right? So rather than the regularity of government calendars, right? Rather than the regularity of church calendars, rather than the regularity of family traditions. What is something new that is welling up with inside of you, with this higher mind connection, with this age of Aquarius, with these solar and lunar influences, with these planetary shifts that happen once a generation? What new pattern or tradition do you foresee? Will you try to enact? Will you bring about? Is the kind of energy, right? Like, hey, now that these shifts have happened, what would you like to do with it? What would you like to create instead? Right? Like the opportunity, like been in the news, the opportunity when bridges collapse is to build a new bridge, right? So what is your new bridge? And is it going to be a replica of the old one, or is it going to be something with new technology, with new insight, with new possibilities to it? Leads you into Sunday, into March. It's the 31st. It is also Easter Sunday, so resurrection kinds of things. What is being reborn or resurrected in you, right? So there might be some kind of latent, this is a more metaphysical thing than a feel, right? So what could be being reborn in you? What kind of idea have you always had that you sort of forgot about? Look for a resurrection of those kinds of ideas to happen on Sunday for you. Leading you into Monday the 1st, which is just kind of mean. April Fool's Day is what we call it, right? And so we really sort of have that energy of you can sort of be overcome by your doubt, right? Are you a fool for wanting to do these new things? Are you a fool for thinking you can change the planet? Are you a fool for wanting to do something different? Are you a fool for seeing things in a new way, or seeing things that they've always been and have been hidden, right? So April Fool's Days is kind of a challenge about that, but it's also overnight and into Tuesday. So we'll just do both days together. Monday the 1st and Tuesday the 2nd. Mercury retrograde starts. Woo! It's really not that bad. It just ends sort of the retrograde free stuff, right? So it actually might be a calming energy for you, right? So the retrograde free energy that we've had over the past 2.5 months has been like, fast downhill, maybe hands off the wheel kind of energy, or maybe fast uphill if you want to think we've been getting better, and whatever the energy that we sort of feel when the bottom's dropped out and we're going full blast, and we're just in the moment of things are changing quickly and rapidly, right? This is Mercury retrograde, or when a planet goes retrograde, it's kind of a tap on the brakes. And since Mercury retrograde is about transportation, it's a great analogy, Jason. Oh, you're so awesome. It's like tapping the brakes on traveling so fast, right? So that you get to sort of uh, redirect or sort of steer, right? So Mercury is also about communication. So travel and communication. Are you communicating to people where you're headed? Are you do you have a big enough voice to tell people to get out of the way? Oh my god, get out of the way, I'm coming downhill. um are you hearing and understanding the messages correctly, right? So this is a time to sort of, did I understand what I wanted to do and how it's happening and who in my life is all these things, right? There's a lot of energy that's moving through, right? And so this is kind of like what happens when you go on retreats and they do an upsell at the end, right? You go, oh, blah, 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 blah. This is so wonderful. And I'm in such a great mood. And they're like, well, do you want to buy this package at the end? And you just take it home and it's this amount of money. And you're like, yes. And then you're like, did I need that? That's the kind of energy that this Mercury retrograde is going to help us sort of pay attention to. This is going to be like, hey, how long do I have that discount? Sweet. Give me the 10 days. This is your Mercury retrograde. Lasts longer than 10 days. This is your Mercury retrograde time to sort of like, hey, am I buying what they're selling? Am I buying what I'm selling? Am I hearing what is being sold correctly? And then taking notes to go like, I like this part. I like this part. And then renegotiating the package. That's the kind of energy that's going to be happening on Tuesday, the 2nd of April. And then I think that's everything in the report. The shop will be closed April 4th, 5th, and 6th. So I'll be there Wednesday the 3rd, and we'll be back next week for the report. But then I'm jumping out for the weekend to go volunteer at a retreat. Speaking of, and so the shop will be closed then. Um, as usual, if you're in the area and you want to stop by and just ask me questions, by all means, I'm here in downtown Brenham, Texas. Google will lead you right here. Sometimes they lie on the internet what my hours are. I can't fix that. I try to. And then if you are in the mood for a session, just to sort of help adjust and align this energy that's going through the cosmos, you can go to newdimensionscrystals.com and sign up for a session. And of course, breath work is still, you can bring a partner to do that, because breathing or going on an exercise such as that is easier with a partner. And I think that's everything. Thanks everybody for hanging out. It was a fun time. There's really a lot of energy. I think I might have got lost in the weeds, but I hear as feedback sometimes that me getting lost in the weeds, especially in one-on-one conversation, is enjoyable because the diversions are relevant. So I hope this week was relevant. And until next week, everybody, many blessings.